Hey everyone, good evening, it's Jay.
I was 8 years old, 7 or 8, and I just remember, finding my cousin's camera, and I literally just used it every day. I would record my daily existence, and I would play it back. At the end of the day, no editing, of course. I would just sit there, I'd plug in the 3 prongs into the old TV, and I would just watch it back. And I was fascinated to see how my daily experience translated on the screen. As a 12-year-old, I kind of realized this needs to be what I do every day. And it kind of became a bit of a survival mode and mechanism of trying to figure out how to make sure this is cemented into my life. So I started to look into schools, and I was looking at places like USC Film School as a 12-year-old and thinking how do I work backwards to get somewhere like how do I work backwards to get somewhere like there? And what I kind of found was an art school in Orange County to kind of be that opportunity. I was like a nerd. I was very technical. I wore button-down shirts and kind of khakis and jeans, and suddenly I see these kids wearing, Supreme and just different fashion brands, and there was this thing that was going on where hip-hop, skate culture, and high fashion, Japanese culture and European culture, Antwerp, Belgium, the Big Six, all that kind of stuff was coming together at once. And I started to kind of connect with these kids, and one of them had a pair of Yeezys, and I remember that kind of being the beginning of my understanding of who Kanye is within culture. And we ditched class one day and we went to the AMC theaters where he was doing a live stream from the Madison Square Garden, where it was a listening event for The Life of Pablo and also a presentation of Yeezy Season 3. And it was at that moment that I saw not just the music and the artist, but also the cultural moment that was. Everyone from Naomi Campbell to a Lucas Sabat. And again, it was this democratization of the industry and the accessibility and just an understanding of who are the players, and I was very just infatuated with the whole kind of dynamic of that and how Kanye was leading that and was at the center of that. And that was my aha moment of thinking, okay, this is the direction I want to go with my documentary. I found myself naturally integrating myself with a lot of the subcultures that Kanye himself would pull from and source talent. And they became my mentors, they became my friends, and I found myself in the last 2 years of high school, particularly my senior year, really at one point not even really going to class. I was in LA connecting with other artists, musicians, producers, designers, and just really kind of learning and understanding the game of design and how in a lot of ways it was a sport. And I organically kind of assimilated myself into this to the point where I would already be in class before I even graduated, and I was talking to people and they'd be oh, well, I'm actually with Kanye in Malibu, we're working with Rick Rubin. And it was kind of this natural progression. And then, me knowing that Kanye always had someone filming him, I was it would be blessed for that to be me.
What is this? What was the idea of a bench? Okay. This is a bench?
Yeah.
Interesting. Could you imagine? It's pretty nice. So you ain't getting open arms, or I don't know. It's hard to tell.
They invited me because he was doing an event. He was doing 4 events, concerts and some screenings, and that's basically how I started. It was actually on a night vision camera, and it was a high 8, and it was glued to my eye. And I remember it being so fascinating because I had no peripheral vision, and I just would follow Ye around, this event. And I remember within the first 10 minutes, I'm tracking him, and it's I'm living through the screen, and he gets excited, he sees someone, he approaches him, and I do a whip pan, and suddenly it's Elon Musk. And the thing that I remember so distinctly was, it was in that moment that I realized the reality distortion field of Ye, in the sense that no one really questioned the fact that this person had someone filming them. And that not only occurred because this was an event, and maybe event videographers and photographers are common, it then translated even into the office later down the road. I mean, it was always like a thing to not turn the camera off. I remember one time he was getting his teeth cleaned, and I was in the car, and then the security came out and got me, and he's like, hey, like, keep rolling, just keep rolling unless I say so. And really, he never told me to stop rolling. And I think it was just a part of our synergy. I don't know exactly where the trust came from, because again, I can't speak for him, but I think it was just a thing that we both knew we were doing for the right reasons, which was to tell a story and to follow it no matter what. And I did feel like, you know, Hunter S. Thompson or something in that way.
We treat everybody that come in like family, and you're gonna sell us out. Like, that's up, man. We look up to you, we love you. Why? What you got against us?
I mean, I do have some things against SNL.
That's cool, but I mean, airing it out like that without letting us be able to reply is kind of foul.
I wasn't thinking about this immediately becoming anything. I was actually just very grateful to be there. And because of that, you know, I felt like I was always trying to find a way to make myself kind of invisible. And I think that kind of natural progression is what created a good momentum and synergy, which is what resulted in some of the later access and ability to kind of capture moments without, you know, over inserting myself in the room, but still like making sure there's a language that's developing as well, cinematically. The objectivity mixed with the fact that I was filming for 15 to 18 hours a day sometimes and really sleeping maybe 2 to 3 hours a night. It was also so much of me technically making sure that I continued to keep rolling. Like there were literal times where my hand would fall asleep and I would doze off. I had to sometimes wear sunglasses and prop myself up and like take a nap and make sure, you know what I mean? Like it really became that at times. The camera rolls at 8 and you know, it goes until midnight, 1, 2 a.m. And so much was happening in such a compact fashion that I didn't even really stop recording. My iPhone video files would literally be like 8 hours long. I mean, in the film, he says like we need to show all of who we are, both dark and the light. And at times, like we would have kind of conversations about this being like an aviator or like a There Will Be Blood, and like we always kind of knew that this was about the realities of genius, the realities of America, the realities of celebrity, the realities of fame. So I kind of just utilized those elements as some of my guiding principles.
Give Daddy a hug.
You know, the best thing about being an artist is just like, and being bipolar is anything you do and say is an art piece.
Overall, you know, the film, with it being called In Whose Name, is really about confronting idolatry, both in the sense of culture and also just in the sense of politics and all the figures that we kind of address in the film. And ultimately, the film for me even is like a Rorschach test, and I think it's a way to start a conversation. I remember being 7 years old when I'm like first picking up a camera, and like in between American Idol or whatever I may have been watching or was playing in the house, you would see news clips of the Taylor Swift moment. And I didn't know who he was, obviously, as a 7-year-old, but to your point, it's like interesting how someone like him has had so many touch points throughout, you know, cultural history. That's why I really think the film, that's why it says it's dedicated to America, whatever that is, that Jack Kerouac quote, because it's like a conversation about the first quarter of the 21st century.
I would rather be dead, not in jail, because I'd rather be dead than to be on medication. No one from the family has taken any responsibility for my hospital visit, but if we were to go on mine, that's 50% of what people say at least. Or maybe, am I lying?
It doesn't matter.
Am I lying? It do matter! It does matter! It does matter!
And I think so much was always happening. He wasn't consciously thinking about the edit. He would just ask how it was going, and then eventually I said, okay, I'm done filming, now it's time for me to go edit this film. So we come back to the chateau, we're staying here, and we just happen to be downstairs and we run into him, and it's been, you know, a year and a half or so since I've been editing, maybe a year and 8 months, and yeah, we sat down and we watched it, and he said that it was deep, and it was like looking back on his life like he was dead. So I think, you know, for the both of us, it was kind of like looking through a scrapbook almost of our shared experience and life. Emotionally, it meant a lot. It meant a lot because I also respect him so much as a creative, and you know, to be able to also show my work to someone that I learned so much from creatively by observing them make albums and shoes and work with architects. It was kind of special in that way. And I mean, we just really honestly sat there in silence for a moment, just like wow, like that was quite the journey.
Always didn't fit in and started to do it on purpose. Was I really being different and just being different on the surface? Was rapping really method acting, connected to a bigger purpose? Seemed to destroy everything I built on the pursuit of perfect. Happiness is accepting everything won't be perfect, and the worst parts of this movie called life gonna be worth it. When act phony, I did this to me. When backstab me, I directed that movie. All the sizes in front of you, just matter what you want to do.